Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The people that you see behind me and many others across the state represent the We the People campaign for North Carolina. We're kicking off a campaign today to get signatures on a petition, but I want to tell you a little bit about why we're here. But first I would like to introduce the people who are with me. Representing the Charlotte NAACP, we have Steve Rundle. Greenpeace Charlotte, we have Michael Zhitkoff. And from the Charlotte We the People campaign, Roger Dietrich, Kim Stinnett, Matt Borio, and myself, I'm Vicki Rowan. And from the Canary Coalition and Corporations Ain't People in the western part of North Carolina, we have Abram Friedman. We, the people, are the first three words of the Constitution of the United States. And you and I know what people are, right? If you cut us, we bleed, we breathe, we put on our pants one leg at a time. Do you really think that Duke Power bleeds when you cut him? Do you really think that you can put Wells Fargo in jail? Do you really think that Bank of America has to breathe 20 times a minute? But in 2010, January 21st, 2010, 5 members of the United States Supreme Court heard a case called Citizens United versus the Federal Elections Commission. And in that decision, it rested its finding on the fact that corporations are people with inalienable constitutional rights. We believe that decision was made improperly. They also based that decision on another false premise, that spending money, which is what Citizens United had been doing, spending money to oppose or support a candidate is free speech under the First Amendment. And the court said that that right couldn't be regulated by the federal government, that Citizens United had the right to spend as much money as it wanted to support or oppose the candidate. Now, we're not just talking about federal elections. We're talking about legislators in Raleigh. We're talking about our executive branch, whether it's federal or state or local. We're talking about state court judges who hear and decide the guilt and innocence of we the people. Do you really think that a person who's walking down the halls of Congress or the North Carolina legislature with a big fat checkbook that's just given money to a legislator gets more or less access to that legislator than one of us walking into that legislator's office? Do you really think that that lobbyist gets more or less access to an appointed regulatory body like, I don't know, the Environmental Commission in North Carolina, than the people who breathe the air and drink the water here in Charlotte, North Carolina, or out by the coal plant at River Bend? Now, this is not a partisan issue. A poll taken just a year ago in September of 2015 found that 80% of Democrats oppose Citizens United. 80% of Republicans oppose Citizens United. And 71% of independents oppose Citizens United. So why is it so difficult to get a constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United if 80% of the population, 80% of the electorate opposes the decision? Well, we're not the ones who make the decisions, usually. It's usually made by the legislator who may or may not have taken money from big corporations. Whether you're talking about a certain congressmen who took money from payday lenders, even though payday lending is illegal in North Carolina and they couldn't possibly be his constituents? Or somebody who has too close ties with Duke Energy? So I'm going to turn it over now to Avram Friedman from the Canary Coalition, and he's going to talk to you a little bit more.
Thank you, Vicki, and thank you all for being here today. Good morning, Charlotte area activists and members of the press. It couldn't be more appropriate for this petition campaign kickoff to take place in Charlotte at this time. There's always been an effort by those in power to keep people divided. Divided by race, divided by cultural differences, divided by income brackets, divided by gender, because they know that if we ever get together and pool our political power and organize together, that we can overcome the oppression of the 1% over the 99%, and our state and our nation will change its priorities to benefit all of us instead of working only for the profit of a few. The underpaid policeman on the street is not the enemy of the black man sitting in a car waiting for his child getting off the school bus. But he is taught to believe that he is, because he has been trained to fear people who are different than he is. It's not a coincidence that the American Legislative Exchange Council, or ALEC, has developed a legislative template, a template voter suppression law that has been distributed throughout the nation and has resulted in restrictive voting ID laws in at least 22 states. These laws are meant to create divisions and resentment between different communities and disempower large segments of our population. ALEC and other corporate interests like the fossil fuel industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the big banks, agribusiness, and the war industry wield such great power because they're permitted to funnel large sums of money into political campaigns, enabling them to control state legislators, Congress, governors, judges, where they're elected, and even presidents and the regulatory agencies that operate under their authority. The NC We the People campaign, our campaign here, today, now, at this press conference, is about getting the money out of politics to end the tyranny of those who would divide us in order to exploit us. Getting the money out of politics is central to all progress on issues related to human rights, economic disparity, and environmental justice. The NC We the People campaign petition drive for a statewide ballot measure is one of the most important political activities happening in North Carolina this year. Corporations are not people, and money is not speech. Our elected representatives need to hear this loudly and clearly, and this needs to be embedded in the U.S. Constitution through a new amendment. Sign the petition, pass the petition, and get others to do the same. Thank you.
Hear, hear. Hi, I'm Steve Rundle, the Political Action Committee Chair for the NAACP, and I just want to speak to what's fundamental with the Citizens United decision by the U.S. Supreme Court that started us on the path to a fundamental inequality in our political system and in our representation in Charlotte and the nation. What we are concerned about is this decision and the incredible amounts of money that have come out as a result of this decision into our political process have essentially skewed the playing field so things are really unequal, and inequality leads to injustice. And we have seen people out in the streets in Charlotte protesting injustice that is a direct result of the inequality we see and the unequal representation that you get when this amount of money comes into politics. So we're standing here to support a measure that would level the playing field for folks, get these large amounts of money out of the political process, and restore equality and justice for the people of Charlotte. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, I'm Matt Borio, and I'm a local high schooler. I just want to touch on the point that money in politics isn't just an issue for just one demographic. As you can tell, I'm a younger person here speaking on behalf of the youth of America. And so even we, the youth, realize that money in politics is an issue that affects us all. As part of the next generation, I stand with many in feeling that the current political state can more than often be categorized as legalized bribery, a state in which political influence can essentially be bought. This is not only wrong, but also very unconstitutional. To preserve the fundamental elements of democracy, which America was founded upon, we young voters demand that Citizens United be overturned. The North Carolina We the People campaign petition and proposed ballot measure are the utmost important. Thank you.
All right.
Hi, my name is Michael Zhitkov. I'm a field organizer with Greenpeace. The Citizens United decision has allowed big polluting corporations to funnel money toward political candidates who will do their bidding. Often using dark money, front groups that don't disclose where their funding comes from. Today, big corporations are setting the agenda, picking the candidates, and drowning out the voices of ordinary citizens, but it doesn't have to be this way. When corporations own our democracy, the interests of the people get trampled by a stampede of campaign cash from corporations in the 1%, meaning that the government serves their interests instead of ours. Since the Citizens United ruling, corporate interests have spent billions backing political campaigns, and they're spending more every day. Fossil fuel companies in particular are spending huge sums of money to make sure politics favors the polluters. Unlimited corporate money in our democracy means that the interests of the people and planet are being drowned out, but it doesn't have to be this way. The Citizens United decision was a bad call for our democracy, and it's got to go. We're standing just a few blocks away from Duke Energy's headquarters. Duke Energy is the largest investor-owned utility in the world. They are also found in a recent study by Facing South to be the largest political influencer in our entire state, from a lobbying perspective and from a financial contribution perspective. They have donated to both Republicans and Democrats alike. We also have a governor that is a former employee, a nearly 30-year employee of Duke Energy. We've seen what happens when Duke Energy has too much sway over our legislature and our governor. They've gotten away with sweetheart deals when it comes to coal ash cleanup, when it comes to reduced fines, when it comes to elimination of regulation, and when it comes to challenging the expansion of solar energy, which would dramatically benefit everyone here in North Carolina. Excuse me. The challenges of using a phone. People and organizations that care about and work on the environment, civil rights, labor unions, women's rights, and many other issues have come together because all of our rights, from clean air and water to the right to vote, are being undermined by corporate control of our government. Greenpeace North Carolina is proud to stand with our partners here and support the We the People Act, declaring that the people of North Carolina support amending the Constitution of the United States to firmly establish that money is not speech and that human beings, not corporations or other artificial entities, are natural persons entitled to constitutional rights. It hasn't always been this way, and it doesn't have to stay like this. We can and we will hold our government accountable as we push for a democracy that is truly of, by, and for the people. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you and good morning.